Hi, welcome to the Brain Injury Discussion. I'm Jay. Let's look at head protection in three interesting and unique environments. The first being bicycles, the second being motorcycles, and the third being industrial or heavy equipment environments. We've often been told that we should wear a helmet, especially when we're riding a bicycle, even from a young age. Wearing a helmet does a lot of good. The brain is a very soft organ covered by a hard skull. And that hard skull provides some level of protection to the brain, but it doesn't always provide a lot of protection to the brain. So, having a helmet, having that extra layer is probably a good idea, even when riding a bicycle. So, let's start with bicycles. In a 2000, written article for helmets preventing head and facial injuries in bicyclists, they note that there are thousands of injuries on bicycles every year. And there are fatalities on bicycles because you also got to think it's not just about the bicycle in the ground. You might be bicycling on a road where there's cars. There might be other instances where you're around maybe some rough terrain, and some of those injuries could be preventable. Same article notes that especially children riding bicycles are at a much higher risk because their brains are still developing. So we don't want to injure the brain when it's still developing. So wearing a helmet is very good, especially for children, but also for adults who are riding a bicycle. Um, so when you're looking at that, there's a lot of reduced risk when you're taking this very soft, you know, very soft jello like organ, not only with your skull protecting it, but let's put an extra layer of protection on it. And that shows that, I mean, especially with children, reduced rates of injury. So, all ages, when you're riding a bicycle, good idea to put on a helmet. So, let's move on to the next big thing, and that is motorcycles. Motorcycles, we see them on the roads. They are on the same roads as cars, as tractor trailers. They're in the same traffic as, regular automobile drivers. So, in an article titled Motorcycle Helmet Effectiveness in Reducing Head, Face, and Brain Injuries by State and Law, Helmet Law, they show that, there is a great reduction in the injury severity when an injury does happen on a motorcycle, especially given how the reduction is not just necessarily in mortality, but also severity, especially with a good helmet. Now, as of 2024, um, Virginia does require helmets when riding a motorcycle. Not all states at this time require a helmet, but Virginia does. So if you are here located in Virginia, like I am, if you're riding a motorcycle, wear your helmet. But it can't just be any helmet. When you're riding a motorcycle in Virginia, you have to have what's called a DOT approved helmet. So, Department of Transportation approved. So, what does that mean? Well, not only are we trying to protect this skull, but we got to protect it against the dangers that it's going to face, protect what's inside that skull. Motorcycles will probably have harder impacts than bicycles. So their standards have to go up. So a Department of Transportation approved helmet will have some extra layers of protection. It has to pass more rigorous testing. Most of those helmets have more padding, and we also got to talk about it that these helmets are there for your safety. Yes, they may cost a little bit more, but they are highly recommended. So, what you might want to do is take a DOT approved helmet if you're riding a motorcycle because that could save your life. And, even if you do have an accident on a motorcycle, that could severely reduce the severity of of that accident, And taking a severity scale from 0 to 10, 0 being nothing, 10 being very severe, it might reduce it by a point or two, which could mean life or death. It could mean the difference between, having that, you know, going on the, sliding on the road. And there's a lot of factors that deal into motorcycle accidents, motorcycle, just crashes generally. But you want to protect that head. You'll see motorcycle riders sometimes, they'll be from the neck down covered in leather because leather, especially in that context, it's a very protective kind of garment. But if you're able to do that for the rest of the body, you should be more protective of your head, especially what's inside this very hard skull is a very soft brain. So good idea to wear a Department of Transportation approved helmet that is tested to stand up to certain rigors. So it's not going to protect you from unsafe drivers otherwise. It's not going to protect you against, you as a rider, your error, but it's going to definitely protect you from a lot of potential injury if you get in that car accident or if you get in that motorcycle crash. Now, let's just think about it. The weight, it might be a few extra dollars more to get that really good helmet, especially one that fits properly. And the same thing applies with bicycles. You want a helmet that fits properly, one that you will wear. And it's not just enough to have it, you actually have to wear it. It's kind of along those discussions of if I put a chemistry textbook underneath my pillow, am I going to wake up the next morning um, becoming a chemist? No, you actually have to wear that helmet. Otherwise, you're not going to get any benefit from it. So it's important that when you do buy a helmet for a motorcycle, that you get one that fits properly, that fits snugly, that fits well. And you also want one that is designed to stand up to the rigors of what the road may require. So, also, that is Virginia law. And if you have any questions about that, obviously, the Virginia Code would be able to give you further detail on that. But just remember that in Virginia, and as well as a lot of other states, you are required to wear a helmet when utilizing a motorcycle. And a lot of states require that for a bicycle as well. But that's just a good idea, But then again, that has to be law in some places. And when you talk about helmets, obviously we've seen construction crews, we've seen industrial environments, we've seen a lot of that. Um, Good idea to wear a helmet there too, especially given how OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration, does require helmets for certain environments. Um, there's a lot of fall risk. In an article written in 2022 that is peer reviewed, it is titled Effect of Helmet Design on Impact Performance of Industrial Safety Helmets. It is noted that proper head protection either will prevent or or really mitigate serious injuries from falling objects, especially around the head and neck. And, depending on what kind of construction site you're working on, there may be some falling objects, especially like you see pictures of the old days when you got a bunch of guys on this, upcoming skyscraper and they're sitting on that one beam all eating lunch together. Unsafe environment. That's why OSHA exists, is to protect those people. So when you're wearing a helmet, you're given that one extra layer of protection on this soft organ, one extra layer of protection on that hard skull, and it's probably going to be an effective uh, prevention of a lot of injuries. Now, before I joined the Navy, I worked in a factory for about 7 months. It was a factory in Iowa. I forget the name of the city, Mason City, Iowa. And inside that factory, in order to go out on the floor, so not the office space, but you were required to wear what's called a bump hat at the very minimum, mind you. Minimum, you are to wear this bump hat, which was a hardened piece of plastic with a, kind of a head apparatus. And I remember that, it seemed kind of arbitrary at the time, but considering that there would have been or could have been falling objects in that area or low and tight spaces, a helmet probably seems like a really good idea. So just think about that. Think about the possibilities of injury when you go into these places. Even in the military, I wore a helmet a lot, especially when you were in a military vehicle. Military vehicles, they don't really come equipped with airbags, do they? No, they don't come with airbags. Some of them are up armored. And so the risk for rollover, the risk for accidents is there, and having that extra layer of protection when just operating a motor vehicle makes a lot of sense. And the same thing applies when, in the military we wore a helmet and we also wore our, plate carrier, our basically our, you know, body protection because there were no airbags in those vehicles. So you think about it, that's body protection. We might as well protect the head. This brain, you only have one of these. You have two kidneys, you have two knees, you have two hips, you have 2 feet. Obviously, if you ask an orthopedic surgeon, hey, can you, you know, is it possible to do a hip replacement? Put some artificial stuff in there? Yes, you can do that for the knees and hips. You can't do that for the brain. So it's probably a very good idea to just wear your helmet, especially in the areas you need. But also remember, you want a well fitting helmet that fits that you will wear. If a helmet is uncomfortable, chances are you might not want to wear it, but you should wear it. You should wear some level of protection. So, if you are riding a bicycle, if you are riding a motorcycle, or if you're operating heavy machinery, if you're on a construction site, you're going to want to wear a helmet. And that just makes sense. Obviously, laws change between states, especially for helmets on motorcycles, but OSHA does require hard hats and other head protections um, on on basically all industrial sites. So just keep that in mind. If you work in a factory, I know it's an inconvenience sometimes, right, to have to put on a helmet, but realistically, you're putting on protection. So when you look at it from that point of view, chances are you'll be more willing to put on that head protection. So just keep that in mind. If you work in construction, feel free to let me know what your rules are. If you ride a motorcycle, tell me about your helmet. If you wear one, what kind you wear, what kind you like. If you ride a bicycle, tell me, is there certain differences between brands? We'd love to hear it. Feel free to put a comment down below, and we'll see what we can learn. And obviously, this is a learning journey together, and we're trying to learn about how we can protect, prevent, and mitigate brain injuries. So, if you have a topic that you want us to look at or you want us to present on, feel free to let us know. We'd love to explore some topics and learn together. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye bye.